Hey, hi.
Hi,
Good evening.
good evening, good evening.
So, it's clear and audible?
Yep, it is.
Perfect. How's your weekend going?
Going good. Busy.
Good.
There's a bar race tomorrow, so
Oh, superb.
getting
Outside.
everything ready, including the cake and stuff.
Nice, nice. So, I'll not waste your time. I think we'll straight away go to the session. Good to go.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, hi. Good evening, everyone. This is Rajith from CYCLERY, and today we're going to discuss about understanding cycling cadence. Cadence is nothing but the number of rotations you do in a minute, and not a complete pedal rotations. It is very useful in different kind of verticals of cycling, like it's useful for race, it's for endurance. So discuss more about it. We have none other than Mr. BIKEY VENKY. He is the head coach for BVCoaching. He's a master cyclist. He has trained a lot of athletes at national level at all ages. And I think it's pleasure to have you on the session. Welcome, Becky. Venki, thanks for coming and thanks for accepting our invite.
It's my pleasure being here.
Okay,
Nice
so
talking.
basically, I would like to brief about the session. Since the idea behind of this session is to uh, educate the new riders who are new to cycling and get into used to the cycling terms and something which they have never thought about it might be useful for them while riding. So
Yeah,
we have 10 set of 10 questions for you, and you can answer us in the best possible way. And if we get any additional questions, we would be taking up in the last 10 minutes of the session. So we're good to go.
sure. Yep.
Okay. So basically, my first question would be like, what is cycling cadence and why is it important?
The cycling cadence, as you said, is just the number of rotations, pedal rotations per minute.
Yeah, yeah,
So that is cadence. Why
yeah,
it is important is because you have to push the pedal down and
yeah,
for the cycle to move forward, right? And
yeah,
that is the basic motion that you are putting in for the
correct.
cycle to move forward. So
Yeah,
basically, the power you are putting in is the
yeah,
product of the cadence and the force you are generating on that pedal, right?
yeah,
So the
correct.
number of rotations you are doing and the force you are putting while doing those rotations is nothing
Yeah,
but the power you are generating to
correct.
move the cycle forward. So
Forward.
that's why the cadence is integral part of cycling at all
Yeah,
levels.
yeah. But someone who buys a cycle, he never thinks about it. He's a take up cycling, just ride it. Okay,
Nothing,
so
yeah.
yeah. So just my next question is like, how do you measure cadence? That's the second question which I have for you.
Yeah, so cadence can be measured in a lot of different ways. There are if you have a basic cycle computer,
Yeah,
you can have a cadence sensor. Usually nowadays, all the cadence cycle computers come with a cadence sensor. It
yeah,
can be and one magnet can be attached to the crank
crank.
and
Yeah,
sensor that kind of moves. So every time it moves, the magnet kind of triggers the sensor and it will
yeah,
be recorded, right? So the
correct,
number of that speed is calculated and the number of rotations per minute is calculated. So
correct.
and nowadays the modern cadence sensors come with
Yeah,
come along with the power meters, right?
correct.
The crank power meters like stages
Yeah,
and even the pedal power meters like Asioma and all these have sensors in it, accelerometer sensors, which kind
okay.
of calculate the movement.
Calculation. Yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah, so based on that, the calculation is automatically appearing on your cycle
yeah.
computer. So
Cycling
you don't
computer.
have to count.
Correct. That's
But
true.
if you don't have a cycle computer, what you can
Yeah,
do is count maybe how many rotations you are doing for 10 seconds and multiply it
yeah.
by
By
into
six,
6,
six.
and
Yeah,
you will get rotations per minute because cadence
correct.
is calculated by rotations per minute. RPM.
Correct. Yeah. Like there are different kind of riders, like, there are leisure riders, there are endurance and racers. What is an ideal cadence for different kind of riders, and what should be considered while choosing the right cadence?
Yeah, this is an interesting topic, right? Because
Yeah.
what is ideal cadence? What is ideal speed? What is ideal gear? All these
Yeah.
things are really difficult to kind of answer. It
Yeah.
varies. It depends on
Correct.
person to person, right?
Yeah.
And there is no such ideal cadence as such that
Yeah.
suits everyone. But
Yeah.
typically, if you look at the pros,
Yeah.
90 RPM is
Yeah.
considered to be a kind of gold
There.
standard,
Yeah. It's
right?
benchmark
So
kind of
that,
thing. Yeah.
yeah, it kind of becomes a benchmark, right?
Yeah.
So, but you know, it, it doesn't mean that. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah. There are some distractions, but yeah. Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Uh,
Yeah. It's fine.
all right. So
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that that is the ideal cadence, right? Just give me a minute.
Yeah.
I think my Bluetooth. All right. So it doesn't mean that 90 is ideal for everyone.
For everyone. Yeah. Yeah. Correct.
Yeah. But typically that is what is considered standard, but it
Yeah.
varies. It could vary either way, right? It
Correct.
can go below or it can go slightly above as well.
Yeah.
So for myself, what I kind of figured out over the years,
Yeah.
based on my race best performances, I tend
Yeah.
to fall around 85-ish when I do a really good power and a really good performance in terms of my ITT cadence, individual time trial
Okay.
cadence.
Correct.
So it depends. Yeah.
Yeah. There is like both, high cadence as well as low cadence, and a lot of implications happen during the climbs. The cadence have a lot of implications. So what are the implications for climbers basically? Like, cadence can be different in the kind of terrains we ride. Sometimes it can really depend upon the headwinds and the tailwinds. A lot of external factors are there.
1 minute.
Yeah.
All right. So can you repeat the question again, sir? Because I had
Yeah,
a issue with the
basically,
Bluetooth.
yeah, no problem. So the cadence basically it has external impacts. When you have riding on different terrains, you're riding on a climb, riding on flat roads. Sometimes you might have headwind, tailwind. What are the implications of cadence on climbers? Basically, sometimes one interesting question which one of my downhill rider, he was saying, I don't have cadence. I just go with downhills. For me, there's no
Yeah,
cadence. So, what is the
yeah,
implications of cadence on climbers
yeah.
basically? Then they have it.
So, yeah, for a downhiller like Iggy or someone,
Yeah,
it's basically you just have to keep the pedals,
raised up.
in an optimal position and just navigate, right? Navigate the
Correct.
trail downhill.
Yeah,
But even him would be slightly, if there is a kind of ramp, he would try to,
pedal
speed up
faster. Yeah,
faster. But when it comes to the climbers, right?
yeah,
So basically, if you have the gear big enough, it
yeah,
is always efficient to find decent cadence, balance between grinding and spinning for
correct.
for climbing, right? So for myself, I find somewhere around 70 for climbing to
Climbs.
be, to be suiting for me.
Correct.
But for pros, their cadence seem to be like almost 80, 90. If you see
Yeah,
someone like Froome,
restraints. Yeah, yeah,
he,
100
he
plus.
he would be spinning at like 90,
Yes, yes.
100 even on climbs.
How he
You know,
climbs. Yeah,
but
correct.
but
That's
if
like
someone like
that is we can't consider him as a human. It's at
no,
something
no.
differently.
Yeah, but mostly you would see even the pros, you would see between 70 to 80 kind of
Correct.
for climbs.
Yeah.
I myself coming from riding a fixed gear back in the day,
Yeah.
tend to be leaning towards grinding rather than
Yeah.
spinning.
Yeah.
When it comes to it is just something that is ingrained into the riding, right?
Correct.
So over the years, I kind of from moved from about 60 to now 70, kind of 70,
Correct.
75 for good my best
Correct.
timing of say on Nandi he
Yeah.
came at about 75 cadence. So
Okay.
it's like that, in the
That's very
70s.
nice. Correct.
So it would vary from 70 to 80 kind of thing for
Depends on the kind
climbers.
of rider you are. Yeah. How fit the rider is.
Yeah, yeah. But if you are, going below 50, you got to be a little careful
Yeah.
because it means that you are pushing it a lot
Yeah.
and,
Grinding it. Yeah.
you're grinding it too much. Some power meters like stages doesn't even
Yeah.
give power if your
Right.
cadence goes below 35 or something like that.
Okay.
So you got to, so you got to be keeping it closer to, above 60, closer
Above.
to
Yeah. Correct.
70 and 80 kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. One interesting thing which we see is the number of brevet riders coming in. A lot of brevet
Right.
riders are there. So they
Right.
need to pedal for very long time, the
Hmm.
cadence.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I have seen a
Hmm.
lot of people ride pedaling fast, then they hold, pedaling fast, then they hold. So what could be the ideal cadence for them? Because I'm sure like 70% people who are listening right now would be more keen on doing long distance.
Right.
So what
Right.
is your advice for them who are doing brevets?
Yes. So what happens is if you are taking a little bit of reprieve in between
Yeah,
on a ride like a 600 brevet,
yeah,
is fine. But it should not be like too much variation. If you are
yeah,
able to say on a flat terrain,
yeah.
if you are not pedaling, you are
Yeah,
basically slowing the bike down. So
correct.
you will need to get it to accelerate again. You need to
Yeah,
put a little more force. So
correct,
instead, if you are able to keep spinning at a decent cadence like 80, 85 kind of thing,
correct.
on a steady level, okay,
Yeah,
you won't be exerting as much energy as you
correct.
would if you are coasting a lot
Yeah,
in the long run. So
that's true.
actually, you will be saving a lot of energy
Energy. Yeah,
by maintaining a steady pace and a steady
correct.
cadence instead of
Yeah, that's true.
posting a lot.
True. Yeah,
Yeah,
that comes my next questions. The difference. What is the relationship between cadence and gear ratio? Because at times I've seen a lot of riders no don't change gear. They say like I like to ride on a higher gear because that will give me more strength. My muscles would grow strong, my calf would grow strong. A lot of myths are happening, and
right.
so what is the relationship between cadence and gear ratios?
Yeah,
That is one interesting. Yeah,
before I address that gears and cadence,
yeah,
what we need to understand it's a very valid point that you said about
yeah,
new riders feeling that they would get stronger if they are in the highest gear that they can
correct.
ride in, right? So I see that happening all the time. All of us do, right?
Yeah,
All of us
correct.
see that happens, especially when you are new, because you don't understand what the
Gears
importance
are
of what
different
gears are
gears.
for and stuff like that.
Correct.
What happens is you are in the biggest crank and the
Yeah.
smallest cog at the front, at the back, and you are just grinding,
Yeah.
thinking that you are going to go stronger. But you will
Yeah.
be able to, you will get stronger provided your knees are going to stay like, like
20
that.
years down the line.
So that, not even 20 years down the line, your ligaments can, especially for the new riders, because they are
Yeah.
not, all the ligaments
Prepared
and
for it. Yeah.
everything are not prepared for it, they
Yeah.
can get injured quite easily,
Yeah.
right?
And that is one other thing which we need to relate. I mean, a lot of people who play basketball and badminton, when they end up having knee injuries, they take up cycling. And there you come and
Exactly,
do again, then do a grinding. Then again you are, adding pain to
exactly.
the other thing.
Cycling being a non-impact sport is very good for knees in
Yeah.
general. But if you are grinding unnaturally high gears, you are
Yeah.
not doing the knees any favor. So it
Correct.
won't be very healthy. So you
Yeah.
got to keep that in mind. And coming to the gear ratios and the cadence, right?
Yeah.
The gears, when people talk about 1, 2 at the front and 3, 4 at the back and all that, I
Correct.
don't know whether to count from the smallest or the biggest. So
Yeah.
I don't look at what gear you need to be and all that. So what you
Correct.
got to look at is, if you have a cadence sensor,
Yeah.
you select a cadence that you want to be in, and
Targeting. Yeah.
keep changing the gears until you are in that cadence range, right?
Yeah.
It can be 80 to 90 or 90 to 100 or 60 to 70, whatever, depending on the terrain. You
Yeah.
you have that cadence in mind and keep shifting until you
The
reach
gears.
the gear where
Yeah.
you are able to maintain that cadence.
Target. Yeah.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
So basically, it is like identifying like what gear suits you in the right terrain. You know.
Correct.
So
Exactly.
basically, everybody use the same gears on different climbs, sometimes on the flat roads, and try to descend a lot of during descending, try to push more cadence. So
Yeah.
that's all. So basically, my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is like right cadence is the right gears for you, defines how good you can target your cadence. You might be
Exactly.
a new rider, you need to organically grow to that level rather than straight away hitting that. So
Yeah.
basically, the best advice would be to start using all the gears first.
Yeah.
Start using it, then I think slowly you can get into that.
Right.
So
Another thing,
yeah,
I want to bring up is, basically, if you are going with a higher cadence,
yeah,
you will be using your aerobic system.
yeah,
Okay.
correct.
You will be using your aerobic system, which means is that your heart rate is going
Heart
to
rate,
be
yeah,
higher
high,
if you are spinning more, right?
correct. Yeah,
But if you are using a lower cadence, that means you are using your muscular
muscles,
endurance,
correct.
muscular endurance, and the heart rate will naturally be a little lower compared to when you
Correct,
are spinning higher. So
correct.
you got to keep that in mind. And
Yeah,
some people ask me, when you ask me to try to maintain cadence near 80 or 90, my
yeah.
heart rate goes up very much. Yes, of course
Okay,
it will
definitely.
go
Yeah,
up,
yeah,
because your endurance, your aerobic endurance is not there yet, and it will
correct.
improve over a period of time. So
True,
it is nothing to be like worried about. If you're
correct.
at high cadence, your heart rate is going to
Heart rate,
be a little bit up. Yeah.
correct. So that comes my next question. Like, how should a cyclist choose the right gear and the right cadence?
Hmm.
As like many would be new riders. So, what is the best, right gear and right cadence for them? Like, you can maybe define between riders, say like a beginner, a leisure rider, an endurance, and a pro kind of thing. I mean, general, if you could help out.
Yeah, I don't think typically new riders,
Yeah,
I would look at their starting cadence, okay,
yeah,
and uh, and if on a flat terrain, if they are going at 60, I would
Yeah.
ask them to look at moving it to closer to 70. I won't,
Okay.
if someone who is riding at
Correct.
60, I won't ask them to,
Shouldn't jump to go to 90. Yeah.
look at 90, right? It
Correct.
will be like a huge difference.
Jump.
So
Yeah.
take step by step, right?
Yeah.
So look at moving a little bit, and
Yeah.
then when you are comfortable at that kind of cadence, then take it a
Yeah.
little further. Take it a little
Correct.
further until you are in that kind of range. You are talking about the pros
Yeah.
and the benchmark we have at cadence 90, right? So you kind of, for the flat terrain.
Yeah.
Same logic applies for even the climbs and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
If your climbing cadence is like 50, see if you can improve it by like 5-10 RPM,
Yeah.
right?
Correct.
So, and then try to see if you can bring it to 65, 70, over a
Correct.
period of time.
Yes.
Yeah.
So basically, there are two type of cadence, basically like the high cadence and low cadence. Like, what could be the pros and cons of high cadence and vice versa for a low cadence?
Yeah, as I said, right?
Yeah.
Uh, if you are a high cadence rider,
Yeah.
you are using your aerobic fitness, your aerobic engine, right?
Correct.
So that is going to be improving, right?
Correct.
As opposed to if you are low cadence, you are using your muscular endurance.
Okay.
Why do people suggest high cadence? Is
Yeah.
basically because your aerobic engine, it is easy to recover.
Yeah.
Your heart, when from an aerobic effort, it is very easy to recover, right?
True.
As as opposed to a muscular endurance effort, a muscular
Correct.
effort, it is not as quick to recover from a muscular endurance effort. The legs
True.
will be showing the efforts effects even after a day or two, right?
Correct.
And it will be difficult to ride that day.
Recover. Yeah.
Difficult to recover from a muscular
Muscle
endurance effort.
injuries. Correct.
Yeah. As opposed to if you are putting an aerobic effort, it
Yeah.
is that much quicker to recover from it, and next day you would be fine again. You can
Yeah.
go another 100 or whatever you are used to.
Correct. And coming to
Yeah.
low cadence.
Low cadence, yes. See, there are situations where, although we would say that cycling is predominantly an aerobic sport, and hence we suggest that your cadence needs to be around this, typically high.
Yeah.
You also need the muscular endurance, right?
Correct.
If you get to a climb like Kalahati,
Yeah.
you are going to grind no matter what cadence, what dish like cassette you have at the back. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You are going to grind. So you
Correct.
need to have the muscular endurance as well, right?
Yeah.
So for that, I as a coach would train the athletes with
Yeah.
specific drills for muscular
Yeah.
endurance as well. So
Correct.
muscular endurance efforts would be, you need to dose them because of the nature of impact they have
Correct.
on the joints and all. So
True.
typically, we would start them off with 5-minute, 10-minute kind of efforts at
Yeah.
low cadences, so
Yeah.
that you build that muscular endurance. So over period of time,
Correct.
you can increase the effort you can put in that muscular endurance, and he will be able to kind of improve his climbing and stuff like that. So
Correct.
yeah, so for climbing, you will be training for, you need to train the muscular
Have
endurance
special
aspect
trainings.
as
Correct.
well. So that, the best way to train for climbing is obviously climbing, right?
Correct.
And once you are on a climb, you will find your cadence that is, you will find that cadence
Suitable.
that suits you and,
Suit your incline, yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Correct. And talking about the external training, like, to improve your cadence, what would be the external trainings you should look at, like, strength
Right.
trainings and what kind of training?
No, for improving the cadence, right?
Yeah.
A person, if he is having a low cadence,
Yeah.
and I want him to improve that cadence, say from 60
Yeah.
to 70 or 70 to 80 and so forth,
Yeah.
right? What
Yeah.
we would suggest is give him smaller drills, right?
Okay.
So a minute at a person who is struggling at 60 can't
Yeah.
do suddenly like 90 for an
Jump.
hour
Yeah.
or something like that. So you
Correct.
got to give us cadence drills, what we call, right?
Correct.
So a
Yeah.
minute or 2 minutes at say 80 cadence or 90
Yeah.
cadence, and then
True.
another a minute or two at normal self-selected cadence, and then again
Correct.
at 1 minute at 100 cadence, like that. So
Yeah.
you got to practice those drills. So
Correct.
maintaining that cadence for 1 minute is
Yeah.
fine. And then over
True.
a period of time, those drills would get you naturally, accustomed to that kind of spinning, right? So
Correct.
that way you would work on your improving your cadence through drills, right?
Okay.
Similarly, yeah, I mean, I don't have any strength training kind of thing for
Yeah.
high cadence, but definitely strength training in general is very good
Yeah.
for muscular endurance, right?
True.
And you would need the strengthening of all the joints, ligaments,
Correct.
and
True.
it can only, and your core, your core, if you have good core, you will be able to be stable on the bike and
Bike. Yeah.
not bobbing too much when you are
Correct.
doing high cadence,
Correct.
or even if you are grinding up a hill, you'll be able
Yeah.
to be stable on the bike and go ride smoothly. So strength
Correct.
training in general is very important for
Correct.
every sort of rider,
Yeah.
and typical workouts that kind of help cycling in terms of strength training
Strength
is
training. Yeah.
are squats, deadlifts, and lunges.
Correct.
So those would be useful, I think. Yeah.
What's your thoughts on indoor cycling? Because indoor cycling on smart trainers, basically, not everyone would able to afford it, but on a trainer or a turbo trainer, you don't have this external factors like, I mean, these days you can take gradient everything, but
You
generally
can
you don't have
simulate
this head
everything. Yeah.
simulate
Yeah.
everything. But generally, if you ask me to get a momentum of cadence, is it a good idea to get on trainers and get the momentum right?
Yeah, why not? See, if it is very easy to, I mean, trainer is very, uh, in my view, it's a very useful tool
Okay.
in all sorts of scenarios. Like you can ride in foul weather, it doesn't matter if it is raining outside or it is
Correct.
40 degrees, you can still ride indoors, right?
Correct.
And it is very easy to kind of do these drills, like high cadence drills and stuff like
Yeah.
that. It is very easy to do and very
Yeah.
safe to kind of execute some of
Yeah.
those intervals
Yeah.
compared
Correct.
to outside.
On the road.
So
Yeah.
yeah. It's trainer is a very valuable tool for any serious cyclist, I would think.
Cyclist true. And how much related is, people always get confused with cadence and speed. You
Hmm.
know, so can you just briefly explain on the relationship between cadence and speed and gear ratio also on a bit?
Right. So cadence, typically when we are starting out, right,
Yeah.
we tend to see that uh, when you are grinding, when you are
Yeah.
when you feel like you are pushing,
A lot of
Uh,
energy. Yeah.
yeah, that is when you think that you are going fast, right?
Correct.
Typically, what lot of us, what we struggle with, especially when we start, is to understand understand that again, it doesn't mean that if you are pushing hard on the pedals
Yeah.
that you are going fast, and if you are not, if you are spinning more, it doesn't mean that you
Yeah.
are slowing down, right?
Correct.
So you got to find a balance between not feeling any pressure on the
Yeah.
pedals, like
Yeah.
spinning just without
Faster.
feeling
Yeah.
pressure,
Yeah.
and feeling too much pressure on the
Correct.
pedals as if grinding. You got to
Correct.
find that gear in
Correct.
between, which still, and you are still feeling the pressure on the pedals, right?
Yeah.
And that means the pressure on the pedals is nothing but the torque you are generating, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And the torque and the number of rotations you are doing, that is the cadence, the
Correct.
torque and the cadence multiplication multiplied is
Yeah.
equal to the power you are generating.
Correct. Power
And
output. Yeah.
power, that power is what propels you, what gives
Correct.
you that speed, right?
True. Yeah.
So you got to find that ideal kind of, the pressure enough and the cadence. So you got to
True.
find that balance
Balance.
between those two,
True.
and keep at it. So, and you, if people who have a power meter, who train with a power meter, will be able to relate to this very
Correct.
easily, right?
Yeah.
So how if he is grinding at 60 RPM, it doesn't mean he's going fast
Faster.
or
Yes.
70 km. So the power will show because
Yeah. How much you
although
have generated.
although he is pushing, the cadence is not there. So
Yeah.
obviously it is a multiplication factor, right? The
Correct.
force and the cadence. So
Correct.
that one of it is decreasing, although is
Yeah.
slightly the force you are putting is slightly increasing, the power will
Yeah.
still decrease because of the multiplication factor. So you
Correct.
got to find that nice balance and then keep pushing.
True. So basically, you would suggest like, write the kind of find the right kind of cadence, and that can have a direct impact on the speed.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes.
Okay, so one more question which I would ask is like, the kind of bike fit, this is something which was not something which came in between, like, how is bike fit and cadence important? I have seen people having too low on the saddle and having a high cadence, people sitting over higher on the saddle and not able to reach, grinding it. So what's your thought on that?
Yeah, that's a very very nice question. See, because bike fit, having the right kind of bike fit is very important, right?
Correct.
It is, most of the bike fitters have you sit. The basic thing is the saddle height that they look at,
Correct.
right? Right?
Yeah.
Reach, saddle
Stopping.
height, and everything, right? So
Yeah.
that's the starting point when you look at it. And when
True.
you sit on the saddle and
Yeah.
have the crank at the lowest point, they look
True.
at your the angle at the knee and look at that 30 degrees of
Correct.
uh, you know angle.
Bent.
And
Yeah.
what that means is that you will have the right amount of leverage from when you
Correct.
are engaging your glutes and
Yeah.
uh, pushing down and pulling
Yeah.
up.
Pulling it
When
up.
you are, so you don't necessarily need to pull up, but when you are pushing the
Stopping
pedal
it down. Yeah.
down and engaging the muscles, that
Yeah.
tends to be the kind of angle that you need to be at. So and
Correct.
that would mean that you are not going to have any knee injuries
Yeah.
at that angle. It is observed to be the legs
Perfect. Yeah.
are perfectly up and down instead of
Correct.
knee moving side to side and stuff like that. When
True.
when your knee is moving or wobbling, it
Yeah.
kind of tends to unnatural movement, right?
Yeah.
So overuse injuries like IT band issues and all that, will
Yeah.
will pop up. So the bike fit is very important
Yeah.
precisely for that matter, because to enable you to spin at varying cadences and
Yeah.
not have an
Injured.
impact on your ligaments and knees and stuff.
True. That's a perfect thing. So the first thing should be bike fit. Then you look for cadence. That's what you're saying.
Yep, yep, yep.
Okay, so last two questions. Like, what are your recommendations for beginners and recreation riders? Majorly new riders would start as a recreational riders, and they might slowly progress into a intermediate and a pro. So, what is your advice for beginners and recreation riders in terms of cadence?
Yeah, so we kind of touched upon that a little bit at
A
the
bit, yeah,
during the thing. See, the thing you have to look at is you have to understand, if you have a geared bike,
yeah,
the gears are there for a reason. Okay,
yeah.
and so
That's true.
you have to understand that the biggest gear is not the only gear that will make you stronger. Okay, so you
Because
got
I need to interrupt with that. One instance where, since we are a store, so I used to get a customer who always comes with bottom bracket issues. So, like, every time we used to change bottom bracket, like, what happens? Like, can you tell me, like, which gear you ride? He said, like, I don't change gear. I always do it on the highest. I said, even on climbs? Yeah, everywhere. You know. So the law impact is on the crank. The bottom bracket always gets put. So I'm
right.
saying, like, then I said the same reason, gears are there for a reason. Please use it. When you buy
Yeah, yeah,
a bike, you will ask the number of gears, but you don't use it literally.
yeah, yeah,
That's the
yeah.
thing. I think that's the best advice.
Yes, you got to use them, and see, and cycling being predominantly aerobic sport, you got to lean towards higher cadence than the lower cadence. Precisely for the reason that your muscles take a lot more time to recover than your heart, right?
Correct.
So,
Yeah.
cycling is no doubt an aerobic sport. You got to, lean towards higher cadence. So wherever you start, it can be 50, 60, whatever. Try to move it a little bit at a time over a period
Yeah.
of time. It might not happen tomorrow. It might not happen next month, next week, or next month. But
Yeah.
over a period of time, say if you're at 60 now, say target to be at
Yeah.
65, 78 next month, and like that,
Correct.
right? Try to move it up,
Yeah.
because that way your knees will thank you, and you will
Yeah,
be
that's
able
true.
to ride
Ride
till
longer.
you are 90. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's true. Yeah, the same thing, recommendations for racers. When a beginner just progress to a intermediate or a pro rider, he get carried away with his own kind of training. Maybe take
Yeah,
the right training methodologies.
yeah,
What's your advice on them to try to? I mean,
yeah.
like self-medication, they to do self-training.
Yeah. So the for racers, right? Like I said,
Yeah,
racing itself would teach them that,
yeah,
because if you are doing time trials, for
yeah,
example, you would know over a few time trial attempts, you would
yeah,
know what was your best speed, when you felt really good, and when
yeah,
your speed was more, and
yeah.
all that. Okay, if you have a power meter and all that, when
Correct.
was your power more, the best,
Maximum.
and when
Yeah,
was your speed best, and
yeah,
what was the cadence at that time, right? So that will give you an indication on what is working. But
yeah.
if it is like really low and you are, going, you think you are going fast,
All out. Yeah.
you might be able to increase that further by, improving it further. So you got
Correct.
to, because by the say you are doing a 33 kilometer TT like we do in Bangalore here, and
Yeah.
you are doing it at 70 cadence, you might want to look at it,
Yeah.
because if you out of say 10 TTs that he has done, his
Yeah.
best time at that best time came at say 80 or 85, then that
Yeah.
would be the kind of optimum cadence for him. So
Correct.
I would look at your race data to look at it.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
So
if you don't have that, you look at what pros are doing, but
yeah.
you don't need to go towards 100 if you are at 70. Improve it. Same principles apply. Improve it
Yeah.
gradually. Work on it
Superb.
gradually.
Superb. So anyone who is listening here who want to take up training on a well organized way, please get in touch with VV Coaching. I think he can help you out. Right thing. It's always good to look at data because, I mean, the way cycling has progressed, I'm sure the way people perceive the data and importance of these kind of elements would definitely help. Okay. So thanks for that. I think we can take a few questions. There are a few questions which came in between which we are not able to read. Someone asked on track cycling, like, can you talk about bit on the track cycling cadence?
Track cycling, typically the cadence requirements on a track cycle are much higher, right? Compared to a normal road cycling or MTB cadence,
Yeah.
track cycling requirements are really, really high. So because their efforts are short and they have a standard gear. So there is no increasing the gear. They don't have gears. There are no shifters. It is a
Yeah.
fixed gear they have on track,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
So once they select that gear, once they start, if it is a standing start on the track, it is
Yeah.
going to be a really strong muscular effort at the start.
Yeah.
Standing start, you have to really able to put that power
Push
down,
it. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But once you get up to speed to keep accelerating, what you need to do is spin, 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 spin. That's the only way to go faster on the track,
Correct.
right? Because you are not going to, be able to increase the gear,
Yes.
no
Yes.
higher gear in between. So you got to spin, spin, spin. So typically, everything on the track ends up being, once you get up to speed, ends up being over 100, 120,
Yeah.
140 kind of cadences, right? So it's
Yeah.
very, very high cadences. So
Yeah.
you got
Yeah.
to work on those drills.
Correct. You can't do like all of a sudden to the track.
Hmm.
It's more of a drilling. Deep
No, no,
drilling.
no, no. Yeah, once you, because the track riders have to practice both muscular endurance and the spinning, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Because the standing starts and all these sprints, they need to be really, really strong
Yeah.
muscularly, and also they should be able to spin really high cadences for short periods of time. Yeah.
Yeah. That's true. And so Senthil Prakash is like, what kind of cadence drill to be followed while doing BRMs? One will not be able to do 2-3 minutes drill throughout the 10-12 hours endurance, right?
No, no, no. The drills that I was talking about are in training, not
Yeah.
for,
Not on the original race.
and that is like, to improve your ability to do higher cadences
Yeah.
in training. You got to be doing those for say 1 hour session and stuff like that. Not
Correct.
on BRMs for 12 hours and 16 hours. That is a sure shot way to injure yourself. Please don't do anything like that. So for once you are at any event, it needs to be self-selected. Whatever work you are doing to
Yeah.
improve has to happen before, right?
Yeah. You have to prepare
Once
well. Yeah.
you the preparation, the training, whatever improvements you are doing has to happen in training. Once you
Yeah.
are at the event, whatever level you are going to continue there, right?
Correct.
So you got to find what works for you for
Yeah.
that kind of duration. So
True.
it can be 80 or whatever. So you find your self-selected cadence and keep at it. So one thing that you need to keep in mind even for those long events is to not coast too much.
Yeah.
Because of that, precisely that reason, as if you are on a flat, if you are coasting, you are slowing the bike down.
Bike down.
That and to make it go faster again, you got to put a lot more power.
Spin, yeah.
Instead, you instead at a lower power, keep supplying that lower power steadily over a period of time. That will be much more efficient. So
True.
of course you can relax on downhills and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
yeah, keep that in mind even for those long
Maintenance, yeah.
rides. Yeah.
Correct. Suggest a device to measure cadence. You are new to cycling, someone has mentioned.
Yeah, there can be a lot of
Brands, yeah.
cyclocomputers. There are a lot of brands, Garmin, Wahoo,
Wahoo, and all.
um, some of those which are not as costly as Garmin and Wahoo are also there in the
Correct.
market,
The
Brighton and stuff
design,
like
there
that.
is, yeah,
There is
design.
Lazine, there is Brighton.
There is
So all,
Bontrager, yeah, all are there.
yeah,
Sigma,
yeah.
yeah, even from basic ones you get.
Yes. So you can go with any of those. Yeah.
Correct. So let me just check. I think a lot of questions came during the chat, so I
Sure,
need to
sure.
scroll down and
Yeah.
find it. Someone asked like how to improve the muscle fiber for getting this cycling cadence. Maybe the muscle power you would have asked.
So, see, basically, mitochondria, you know, uh, you will, the longer rides will, endurance rides will build those mitochondria over a period of time. So the build phase, the base phase, your base phase, the work you do,
Yeah.
the longer rides will build those mitochondria. But if he is talking about muscle fiber and all that, that's kind of
It's a
comes
different
into my
topic. But
mind.
yeah,
But when you are looking at uh, general leg strength and all that, the things
yeah,
that we talked about, the weight training and stuff,
yeah, true.
comes in handy. The squats, lunges, and
Deadlifts, yeah.
deadlifts will come in handy. And also, if you are looking to improve your climbing,
Yeah.
climb. The more you
Yeah.
climb, the
Climbing
better you
is
get
one
it.
good way of improving your muscles.
Improving your muscle endurance,
Absolutely.
definitely.
Someone asked like, what is the relationship between crank size and cadence?
There is a good relationship. See,
Even I need to
typically,
add on that. Sorry, to add on that, the width of the crank also has implications of cadence, like 170 mm, 175 mm.
that's the crank length.
That also, yeah, crank length is
So
also having a lot of impact.
yes. So the typically the shorter the
Spindle.
according to physics, right? The shorter the crank length, then more number of rotations you need to do, right? You
Correct.
will be able to do.
Yeah.
And the longer the crank length, for the
Yeah.
same, then cadence will be a little lesser
Yeah.
to generate the thing. So there is definitely a relation, and
Yeah.
uh, typically the shorter riders, riders who are shorter in stature, will need those shorter cranks, are
Yeah.
those who are doing TTs,
Yeah.
because in that TT position, your leg
Yeah.
is not able to come up as much, and
Correct.
to make sure that that you are not hitting your body with your leg and stuff like that. So to make sure that there is ample angle between your body and the hip
Correct. The
hinge,
rotation. Yeah.
to enable the smooth rotation of the in that TT position,
Yeah.
people tend to use shorter cranks for that TT bikes.
Yeah. And so
So
add that, they would have definitely asked for the number of teeth also to add on to that questions.
yeah, so
Say
the
like
number of, what do you mean by number of teeth?
the crank teeth, like, 52, 48, 36. These days, few SRAM comes with 36. cranks, single cranks, some are at 48, some are at 50, 52. I
Yeah.
mean, he would have asked on that perspective.
Okay, so the crank, so compact is 50-34, right?
Correct.
50-34 is compact. Standard is 52-39, 53-39. 53-39 is standard. And mid compact is something like 52-36 is mid compact. So
Yeah.
typically for any most riders,
Yeah.
a compact crank is what I suggest. 50-34.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
will be able to do a lot more climbing. You will be able to ride a lot more easier on the flats and stuff like that.
Yeah.
With a 50, most riders 50-34 would suffice.
Yeah.
If you are a lot more faster rider, if you are into TTs and stuff like that,
Yeah.
standard 53-39,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
standard crank would suffice. But if you are somewhere in between, you can look at the mid compact
Correct.
52-36.
50 to 36.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that
I
would be
mean,
a kind
this,
of
yeah,
compromise between those two.
correct. I mean, the latest, like I was checking through few of the 2022 bikes, few SRAM rivals, E-tabs are coming with single crank,
Hmm.
uh, 1
They
into
have like
12.
48,
Yeah,
48.
36 to for 52 is the crank size they have given, when you customize a bike when you choose. In that point of time, like how do you choose it?
So surprisingly enough, all these gravel bikes and the bikes that are
Yeah.
coming with a single crank, right? A
So this way I'm
single,
seeing race bike, racing bikes,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
aero
So
bikes are coming with single cranks.
with single ones
Yeah,
to save the weight because
correct.
nowadays every bike has become heavy with the discs coming into the picture, right?
Correct.
So they
Yeah,
are trying to save it somewhere. So,
correct.
but surprisingly enough, if you look at the gear ratios that are available, right?
Correct.
Um, lot of these race bikes are almost close to, I think, are equal to the kind of gear ratios that are available in normal bikes.
Yeah,
30, so even 50-34 kind of compact or standard, they are quite almost equal.
yeah.
So yeah, yeah, they,
I mean, that was a new development which I was surprised on seeing like single crank on a road bike. So
yeah.
when a customer asked us like which teeth I should suggest, then I was like a bit skeptical on
Yeah,
sell.
the gear range, the cassettes that that are available right now
Yeah,
have the bigger one. We used to call the grandma gear, right? So
yeah,
it comes almost like a plate now. Um, uh,
correct.
it was common to see on MTBs.
Yeah,
So the MTB, the front crank is like this small, 34 or
yeah,
something, and the bigger
yeah.
one at the back is like almost 50.
51, yeah.
Yeah, 50, 51. So it's like they interchanged the crank and the
That's
cassettes.
true. Correct. I
So
mean, like, yeah, yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
nowadays
No, my
it is
question is,
coming into
yeah,
the gravel and this thing, and
correct.
the availability of the lower thing is
Yeah,
not that much of a problem because 48 or something, 48, 46 are typically the front crank
correct.
front this thing, but the back is typically available like what even it's quite big, so climbing
Yeah,
is not that much of a problem. But
correct.
what they might find problem is with the highest speed. Um
Correct.
so
But these
that
days,
that might.
the cassettes are coming into with 12.
Hmm.
The SRAMs, the latest Shimanos are with 12 and the rear cassettes, and they are reducing the number of, crank teeth. They are bringing in one in front and 12 behind. So there are few advantages of, no shifting, lesser maintenance, only one shifter, you know. But at times I know people were confused because then one bike can't serve all the purpose. If you choose one crank at 50,
Hmm.
then for a race, I don't know. Even for each kind of rides, you need to have a different
Yeah, yeah. So what these guys tend to do, the bike manufacturers tend to do,
yeah,
tend to research on what is the kind of gear ratios that are typically used,
maximum used. Yeah,
maximum used, and what are the gear ratios that are able to serve, cater to most riders, be
correct.
it pros, semi-pros,
Yeah,
serious amateurs, and all these guys. They look at
true.
that and kind of take the decision, saying,
That's
okay,
true.
this is something that kind of caters to everyone. Let's go with it.
Yeah,
So
coming
I
to
guess,
TT, yeah, there you don't really need the second crank in the front. When you're in
yeah,
the
yeah,
TT,
yeah,
one crank would be good enough. Maybe that could be one reason. I'm not sure.
right, yeah.
Any suggestions on doing beer amount single speed?
Okay, I don't know. I am not a person who would say no to something like that. I myself have done a tour of Nilgiris on a fixed gear bike back in
Okay.
2011. So
Okay.
so I'm not going to say that no, don't do it and all that, but build up to it. Okay,
Yeah.
if you are used to
Prepare for
riding
it.
a single, yeah, if you are used to riding that bike single speed for
Yeah.
over a period of time, and you are able to build up to the distance like that, please go ahead.
Yeah.
Even when I did a tour of Nilgiris is 900 kilometers over 1 week. When
Yeah.
I was preparing for that, I did some 12,000 kilometers in 6 months
Right.
before that. So
Correct.
it is about training for that and building up to it.
True.
Don't just jump into something just because you wanted to,
Do
that
it. Yeah.
thought came in mind and go and do it. Please don't.
Correct.
You build to it
Correct.
so that you don't end up injuring yourself.
Correct. I've seen riders who are doing fixies in, SR in fixies. I mean, they're passionate. They ride only fixies.
Of
I
course,
mean,
nothing wrong
yeah,
with it, as
nothing wrong
as
with
long
it.
as you are able to, progress gradually instead of
Yeah,
shocking the
but
body.
ideally you shouldn't do it to get some, recognitions or yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
don't get
Yeah,
carried away with the peer pressure.
yeah, yeah. You need to ask yourself, why are you doing it?
Yeah,
Yeah, are
true.
you taking that as a challenge for something? Yes, train for that challenge and do it.
Correct.
Just for grabbing eyeballs, don't end up injured. That's it.
True. That's true. Any last questions you will take? I think we are almost at 1 hour right now. It went, so fast. Talking about one topic, it keeps going in. We always
Yes,
try
yes,
to
of
finish
course.
it in 30 minutes, but somehow the other way it goes to 1 hour. So one last question, you
Please, if
before we
you,
wind up.
sure,
Yeah.
sure.
So maybe, yeah, if you don't have, we can always conclude with, your conclusion on this session, like, the last piece of advice.
Sure, yeah. It's been a really nice session. Very good questions from you
Thanks a
as
lot.
well as the audience. Uh,
Yes.
that is, I mean, I had fun talking about that. But as I said, the
Yeah.
my only advice would be to be mindful of what you are doing, what kind of riding
Correct.
you are doing, what are the things that you are, looking at. Build
Correct.
whatever event you are looking at, build to it, train for it.
Correct. Yeah.
Don't do anything just for just because some thought came into mind.
Yeah.
Look at uh, everything in the long term. You should be
Yeah.
able to stay healthy and keep riding
Injury free.
until keep riding injury free as long as you are alive, because cycling
Yeah.
enables that. you you
Exactly.
cycling, we can keep cycling till you are 90, 100 and whatever, right? So
Yeah.
let's all aim for that, and don't take the long term approach.
Yeah. Better to look at yourself than, go and get carried away with your co-riders because they have
Absolutely,
a different
absolutely.
fitness level. And one last thing, can you just talk a bit about BV coaching of people who might have not heard, like how they can, progress to a organic rider?
BV coaching is started in 2016, and
Okay.
people can reach out through my website bvcoaching.in,
Okay.
where
Also, you have an
we
Insta
have,
ID.
yes,
Yeah, it's there in the
by
description of the session. Yeah.
correct. So you can reach out, and we have over the years from 2016 we have trained a lot of riders both at on all age groups across
Okay.
all the spectrum of national level, state level, and
Yeah.
recreational riders or
Yeah.
working athletes as I love to call
Yeah.
them. So
Yeah.
that's what we do. We look at the people's availability, their experience,
Yeah.
and the goals, and try to
Yeah.
match the plans towards those,
According to you.
customized to those uh, every
Correct.
person.
It's a custom plan. Yeah. One
Yeah,
size won't fit everyone. The similar
yeah,
way,
absolutely
like,
not. Yeah,
every
yeah,
even for the training. So that's what
yeah.
great. So thanks a lot once again. Thanks for coming for this session. So as we discussed right now, if you want to visit the website of BV Coaching and the Insta ID, it's all mentioned in the description. Thanks all for joining. So if you have any queries which you couldn't join live and then later come with a question, please put it in the comment section. And this would be on our IGTV video, so you can watch it later also. Thanks everyone. Thanks Bike Venky for coming in. It was a pleasure to
Thank you
have
for
you.
having me.
Thanks for your time.
Same here.
Thanks everyone.
Bye,
Take
bye,
care.
bye.
Good night. Bye bye.